You know what's actually strange? Some of the most intelligent people alive are also the most exhausted. Not from doing too much, from thinking too much. They replay a conversation from 3 days ago and find 17 things they should have said differently. They lie awake at 2 a.m., not because something went wrong, but because their brain keeps asking, what if? They already know what they want to do, but they can't start because they're still thinking about it. They plan entire conversations before they happen. They rewrite texts 4 times before sending. They apologize for things that aren't their fault because they've already imagined every way it could go wrong. And here's the thing. This isn't laziness. This isn't weakness. This is something much more interesting. Today, we're going to go deep into the psychology of people who think too much. What's actually happening inside your brain, where this pattern came from, what it secretly reveals about who you are, and the one shift that changes everything. If you're someone who thinks too much, psychologists have a name for what you're experiencing. It's called maladaptive rumination. And before you let that label frighten you, it doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're anxious. And it definitely doesn't mean something is wrong with you. Research from Yale and the University of Michigan consistently shows one thing. The people who ruminate the most tend to have brains that are exceptionally good at pattern recognition. Your brain is always scanning, always processing, always looking for meaning. The problem isn't the intelligence. It's that the system never gets a signal to stop. Think about what your brain actually does in a single day. It monitors every conversation for hidden tension. It tracks how people respond to you, not just what they say, but how they say it. It files away micro expressions, changes in tone, moments of silence that lasted half a second too long. While other people forget a conversation the moment it ends, your brain is still there, still turning it over, still asking, did I say the right thing? Did they take it the wrong way? What were they really thinking? That's not a disorder. That's a mind that cares, a mind that's paying attention, a mind that's been trying to protect you for a very, very long time. And here's where it gets even more interesting. For most overthinkers, this pattern didn't start last year. It didn't start in college. It started in childhood.
When a child grows up in an environment where things felt unpredictable, where moods shifted without warning, where approval could disappear overnight, where saying the wrong thing had consequences that felt enormous, the young brain learns a very logical survival strategy. Think ahead. Anticipate everything. If you can predict what's coming, maybe you can protect yourself. The child who learned to read the room became the adult who can't stop reading the room. Overthinking, seen through that lens, isn't a flaw. It's an adaptation. A very smart nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do.
Now let's talk about what's actually happening inside your brain. Because once you understand the mechanics, it becomes very hard to hate yourself for it. Neurologically, this comes down to one structure you've probably heard of, the prefrontal cortex. This is the region responsible for planning, analysis, self-reflection, and decision-making. In overthinkers, this region stays highly active, even during downtime, even when you're supposed to be relaxing, even when you're trying to sleep. It simply doesn't go offline. At the same time, there's something called the default mode network, your brain's background operating system. It generates your inner monologue, your sense of self, your replays of past events. In most people, it activates when they're resting. In overthinkers, it never really stops. The result? A mind that's essentially always online, always auditing, always processing, always drafting responses to conversations that haven't happened yet. And here's where it gets really interesting. Not all overthinking is the same. Psychologists identify 2 completely different types, and knowing which one you're doing changes everything.
Type 1, reflective rumination. This is when you turn inward to understand yourself, to process what happened, to make sense of your own emotions and motivations. Done in balance, this is not only normal, it's a genuine strength. It's linked to higher emotional intelligence, deeper self-awareness, and stronger relationships. This kind of thinking makes you better. Type 2, brooding rumination. This is where thinking becomes a trap. You dwell on problems without moving toward resolution. You replay what went wrong without finding what went right. You imagine future disasters without imagining future solutions. This is where overthinking starts to cost you in sleep quality, in confidence, in the quiet anxiety that builds from overanalyzing every single interaction. The tricky thing is, most overthinkers oscillate between both. A moment of healthy reflection can slide almost invisibly into a spiral. And this is where dopamine enters the picture. When you run through a scenario in your head, analyzing every angle, constructing arguments, mapping outcomes, your brain releases small amounts of dopamine, not for finding an answer, just for thinking. Your brain is being chemically rewarded just for the activity
of running the loop, which means the loop feels productive, even when it isn't, which means stopping feels wrong, like interrupting something important. This is why telling someone to just stop overthinking is neurologically naive. Your brain has a chemical incentive to keep going. It's not a character flaw, it's a feature running at the wrong time.
So what does all of this actually reveal about a person? Here's what the research says, and I want you to really sit with this because it might completely reframe the way you see yourself. A 2013 study published in the journal Psychological Science found something remarkable. People who reported the highest levels of rumination also scored significantly higher on cognitive empathy. Cognitive empathy, the ability to understand how other people think, to feel the weight of their perspective, to sense what's left unsaid in a room, to know when someone is putting on a brave face, even when everyone else misses it. The very engine that makes overthinking so exhausting is also what makes these people extraordinary to be around. You notice things others miss. You feel the weight of possibilities most people never even consider. You understand people often better than they understand themselves. The problem isn't that you think too much. The problem is that all that perception has nowhere to land. There's no off switch, no moment where the brain says, okay, I've understood enough. I can rest now. Instead, it keeps going, keeps processing, keeps looking for the thing it hasn't figured out yet. And here's the quiet truth at the center of all this. The mind cannot think its way out of every problem. Some things have to be felt. Some things have to be decided without perfect information. Some things have to be released, not solved. And the overthinker's greatest struggle is learning to tell the difference.
So what actually helps? Not the just think positive advice, not the keep a gratitude journal advice that works for some people and does nothing for overthinkers. Something more precise. Therapists who specialize in chronic overthinking, particularly within a framework called acceptance and commitment therapy, don't try to stop the thoughts. They change the relationship to the thoughts. There's a specific technique called cognitive defusion. It sounds academic. It's not. Here's what it actually means. When you're overthinking, you're fused with your thoughts. The thought and the reality become the same thing. I might fail becomes I will fail. They seemed distant becomes they hate me. I don't know what to say becomes I'm socially broken. Cognitive diffusion creates distance. Instead of this situation is dangerous and I need to solve it right now, you say my brain is generating a concern right now. One version pulls you into the spiral. The other puts you one step outside it. That one step is everything. Because here's what changes when you have that distance. You can observe the thought without becoming it. You can notice the loop without being trapped inside it. You can choose, actually choose what to do next instead of just reacting to whatever the loudest thought in your head is demanding. There's another piece that matters here. Overthinkers often believe that if they just think hard enough, long enough, from enough angles, they'll reach certainty. They'll finally feel ready, finally feel safe, finally feel like it's okay to act. But certainty almost never comes that. Action comes first. Clarity follows. The brain that waits for perfect information before moving waits forever. The shift isn't from overthinking to under. It's from thinking as a way of controlling, thinking as a way of understanding. You don't need to stop thinking. You need to stop letting every thought feel like an emergency. Overthinking is not a personality defect. It is not evidence that you are too sensitive, too complicated, too much. It is a highly active mind that learned very early to stay alert in a world that once felt uncertain. That mind kept you safe. It helped you read situations others couldn't read. It gave you a kind of emotional intelligence most people will never develop. And now, that same mind needs something it was never really given: permission to rest. Not to shut down, not to stop caring, not to become someone who never thinks deeply. Just permission to let some things be unresolved. Permission to not have the perfect answer ready. Permission to exist without solving everything first. We all carry patterns shaped by experiences we didn't choose. Understanding those patterns doesn't erase them, but it changes how much power they have over it. And sometimes that understanding is exactly where it begins. The very fact that you're here, watching this, thinking about this, trying to understand your own mind more clearly, that's not overthinking. That's exactly what it looks like when someone decides to finally know themselves. Quick question before you go. Are you more of a deep thinker or a full overthinker? Drop it in the comments right now. I read every single one and I reply to as many as I can. If something in this video clicked for you, if it named something you felt but couldn't quite put into words, the subscribe button is right there.